Now, a few days ago, I put a video on Instagram and I had a handful of stuff. Basically, everything that's on the floor behind me. Basically, equipment that you should have on you all the time, whether you're traveling and skating, you're at home and skating, you go with friends, visiting out of town, anything like that, and you plan on skating to help keep you guys healthy so you can keep on your board and make sure that you don't run into any problems when you're just trying to get some flips. So a lot of the problems that we run into are ankle issues, foot issues, knee issues, hip, low back issues, stuff like that. And so how we take care of ourselves and what equipment we use to take care of ourselves to keep us generally healthy can make a big difference in how frequently we can get on the board. One of the things that comes along with this is going to some of the guys that I work with is that they're out of town for a couple weeks at a time and stuff like that, and they're pretty much skating every day. They don't really get any days off, and oftentimes this is when problems start to arise and start to show themselves, where the knee starts to become irritated, or their back starts to bug them, or they do something wrong, and guess what? They're injured and they're out for a few days. They have to wait for the system to recover, and then they can try to skate, and then it's still not really that comfortable. So I'm going to give you guys some things that you can do to keep healthy when you're out and about, and you're going to be doing a lot of skating. So I'm going to actually just kind of start from the feet up. And these are things that I've touched on in some of the other videos, but also going into what specific equipment you should have on you. And it doesn't really take much. Honestly, I fit all of this stuff that I have in a small backpack that I keep in my car. So when I go anywhere and I go skate, if I need a foam roll, I have my foam roll. If my ankle's bugging me, I got to do a little bit of exercise and activation work to fix it, then I'm good. If my foot's a little sore, I can roll it out. If my hips need a little bit of help, then I can take care of all of these things and I don't need to worry about anything else. So the first thing that I have is really simply just a golf ball. A golf ball goes a long way into helping you recover after bouts of skating when you do a lot of jumping and landing and impacting. And I've touched on rolling out the foot with a golf ball before, where you'll roll back and forth through the middle of the foot, kind of along where the arch line is. And then when you get to where the ball of the foot is, I'll just take it left and right. And I'll do this until it stops being kind of like achy, irritated, where it's really painful, to where it just kind of feels nice and relaxed and everything on the foot. And this does a lot to help the foot recover. You can even use this as something to do a little bit before you skate to wake up the nerves in the foot, kind of like I talked about in the very first foot video. Little things we can do to get the nerves to wake up, and so we can kind of feel it a little more, sense a little more as we go along. And obviously, golf balls are really not expensive. If you like to do golf as a side hobby, obviously you don't even really need to worry about doing anything else. So from there, other things that we have are an air disc. So an air disc is about 20 bucks. This is a good stability developing tool. Now, when I use this with my athletes, I have a few different drills that I do, but plain and simple, one of the simplest things you can do for taking care of the structure of the foot and making sure you have good muscular balance is just being able to balance on it for the most part. So you'd want to set the middle of the foot right in the center of it, and the goal is to be able to hold for 2.5 minutes on each side. So if I'm going to stand on it and I'm going to balance like I just got done pushing with one of my feet and holding that position, keeping the glutes engaged, and trying to maintain that position the entire time. So I'm not going to squat down lower, I'm not going to stand up higher, I'm not going to try to swing my foot out forward initially. I'm just going to hold here and I'm going to let it burn, time myself for about 2.5 minutes or working up to 2.5 minutes, and it'll do a lot to strengthen up the lower leg, the intrinsic stabilizers of the foot, the calf, everything like that to help keep them healthy. Of course, you want to do it on both sides, make sure they're nice and even. If you like to do manuals, then you might find this to be a little easy at first, and then we can add in complexity, which I'll make another video for that later. This is also really good into our general ankle health, because when we have flicking, if I go slide my foot off, we have the knee that rotates with the foot for part of the flick, but then we also have part of the flick where the foot does it by itself, so the knee stays in place and we just kind of wick it out. But we need to have motion available to be able to do so. So one of my favorite exercises, and this has been put into a couple of my other videos, is supination. But I'm going to do supination and pronation. And so I use this to block the knees so they don't walk out or turn in, turn out, anything like that. And then I'll just go ahead and extend them out as wide as I can. And then I'll turn them in as far as I can. And I'll hold for a couple seconds at each extreme of the motion. So I practice both. So I'm flicking, I'm returning, I'm flicking, I'm returning. Pretty simple, right? Should be pretty easy to understand. Well, when we're coming back and returning, this is part of the thing that helps to shape and form the arch of the foot. And so if you have weak arches, this is really good for you. This helps to develop the arch of the foot, lift the arches so you have more impact protection when you're jumping off of stuff, impacting, trying to get, a burial heel off of a 3 block or whatever it is. I wish I could do that. But it makes a big difference for the care of the ankle and the condition of the ankle and the foot. So boom, that one's done. So going up from there, foam roll, we can foam roll the calves, we can foam roll the quads, the IT band, the hip flexors, the back. Like I said in the Instagram post, this is a rumble roller. This is actually my favorite roller I have, or that I've ever really used, because the spikes and the knobs help to really dig in to get trigger points that help to release the tissue. It gets in deep every single time. I have not gotten used to this, and I've had this one for like 2.5 years, and it's still just as effective as it was the first time I got it. Also, it's small. I can fit this in a backpack. I always have it in a backpack on me, so if you're out skating and you see me and you go, hey, can I borrow your roller for a minute? Not a problem. I got you. Now, when we get into the hips, now the hips are really important. When we jump, we land, everything we do, we utilize the hips. And so when I go to flick, lift and jump, so on and so forth, everything is transmitted through the hips. A lot of it is done with the hips. And so keeping the hips healthy, keeping the hips strong is really important. Now, we have a few different ways that we can strengthen the hips. And you can either get yourself a mini loop band for about $3, which will maybe last you a couple months, and you'll have to buy them and buy them and buy them if you do it frequently. Or you can go with the more expensive option, which is called a slingshot. This is made by a company, Hip Circle. This is called a Hip Circle. This is made by a company called Slingshot, which is really oriented in powerlifting, and this is why I ran across it, because I was doing powerlifting in some of the 15 years that I wasn't skateboarding. But this thing is fantastic. It's really comfortable. It has a 1-year warranty, and we can do everything with this as we can with the little mini loop band, especially glute hip strengthening exercises. Now, getting into using this, I'm going to give you guys a couple corrective exercises that help to improve the function and the strength of the hip to take stress off of the knee. Now, the first one is like your Suzanne Summers, like kind of hip opener. I like to call them bad girls, but they're actually just called clamshells. So if I sit here, I'm going to take a 45-degree bend at the hip, so my knee is lower than my hip. My feet are going to be together, and then all I'm going to do is open up the hip as far as I can, and then let it close, and I'm going to resist the desire for it to want to pull my knees shut. Okay, so I'm using my hip and my glute in relation to even how I would flick a kickflip right now. So if I took this out, when I went to jump, lift my foot, and then orient long for a kickflip, very exaggerated kickflip, this is really where a lot of that action and control of the leg happens, is in the glute. And so I'll do about 3 sets of 15 to 20 on each side, and then I would go ahead and switch and do the other side. Pretty simple. Stack them, open up. This is the good girl position. This is the bad girl position. So 15 to 20, 3 sets each side. You can do these almost every night for the most part. Strengthen up the hips and keep them strong. And then we can get into, I call them clock touches. But these are another banded exercise where you go into a kind of semi-squatted position. You'll balance on one foot, and imagining that there's a clock in front of you, 12 being right in front, and 6, check your 6 if you guys play a lot of Call of Duty, stuff like that. Then I would basically go ahead and go through 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and I'm going to try to touch each position without actually putting any weight on it. So I'm not going to lean on this foot. I'm actually just going to extend and touch. Then I'm going to go to 3 o'clock, extend and touch. 4 o'clock, extend and touch. 5 o'clock, extend and touch. And then I go back to 2. So I go boom, 2, touch with the heel. 3, touch with the toe. 4, toe. 5, toe, and then back. And then you could even run it back. It doesn't really matter, but we're loading and stabilizing using the glute to help protect the knee. So those are two very simple exercises to do with the hip circle or the mini band to help keep the hips strong and mobile. So then getting into, I had this big band. This is called a Thayer band. Oftentimes you can buy this in rolls for like 15 to 20 bucks. And so one of the biggest exercises that I could actually recommend to skateboarders using this to help strengthen the hip, because we do so much sliding and lifting this way, which utilizes the hip. We need to have strong hips to be able to do so. And to be able to do it repetitively, to be able to do it well, to be able to control whether I'm going to take it up slow for a little bit delayed, kind of flattening out of an ollie, or if I'm going to do it quick so I can snap a flip trick into a ledge, something like that, then having strong hips is really important. So we have an exercise called a monster walk. This one's really simple. All I'm going to do is stand on the band, and I'm going to stretch it tight, and then I'm spread it apart, and I'm pull it back in. So any of you that have had to deal with an ACL issue, anything like that, then you may have had to do this as it helps to strengthen the hip. Now imagine that I'm sliding my foot up the board for an ollie. Okay, that's the same action. So why should you have weak hips that make it harder for you to do that? And you can even go into the extended version like I'm doing right now, where we're resisting motion in kind of this weird way. It's one reason why they call them monster walks. They walk kind of funky. Anyways, I'm not your clown. I'm not here to entertain you people. So then getting into, I have a double lacrosse ball and I have a single lacrosse ball. Much in the same sense that I can use this to really target a lot of the big muscle groups and areas. I like to do, especially for skateboarding, the calves, both ways, turn the foot back and forth, really try to find sensitive or sore areas. I'll do the tibialis, which is kind of the muscle just on the outside of the shin, and I'll try to find where it may be sore, maybe worked up. This can oftentimes help with issues with shin splints. Hamstring, one, make it harder. I can go both. Then I can go IT band directly on the side. I can go quad, lateral quad, like in the skater knees video I did, straight quad, using different types of foam rolling or methods of foam rolling, mashing, like what I'm doing right now where I'm just kind of grinding a spot into place. I'll hit the hip flexors, I'll sit on it, and I'll hit the glutes, try to find areas in there that may be worked up or sore, or may need to be assisted in recovery. I'll hit the back, and just pop. It always feels so good to do this. And I'll hit all these regions after skateboarding to get them all loose to help them recover. You can't skate again or skate to your maximum capability if you don't recover. So using a foam roller to hit all of these different areas is really important. You can also check out the trigger point video that I made on my YouTube channel that will give you some insight into really hot spots, really big areas that could be an issue. Well, if they're really worked up, if you have small areas that are really, really painful, we can use lacrosse balls for this, and I explain that in that video as well. But two balls taped together, you can get along the entire back, some of the bigger areas into the glute, sometimes into the quads if you really need to. You can lay on it down this way, and this will hurt a lot more than a foam roll, but it'll be tremendously effective. You can use this on the calves as well, and just find the areas that are really worked up and the muscles that are really worked up to get them to release and relax and recover. And this can go a long way to taking care of your health. Now, when it comes to doing the back, sometimes the low back gets irritated pretty easily. I've ran across this with my guy Jake. And so what I'll do is I'll take him and I'll put his feet up on a seat. we'll take this, and the space between the lacrosse balls here are actually for where your spine would go. So it doesn't sit directly on the spine, it sits on the muscles that go along the spine. And then we lay back and we relax. So when we elevate the feet and we kind of put everything close, it allows the hip to tilt a little bit. So it opens up some of that tissue that gets really tight in the low back. And then you just wait for it to feel better. And then you just lift up, come up a little bit higher, and you can work that entire area in the low back that can be really sensitive and get really irritating, especially if you did a lot of rotating tricks, 180s, 360s, lip slides, tail slides, nose slides, where you did a lot of turning. Sometimes the back can get really beat up for those. And so all these things can make a big difference into keeping you skating more consistently, keeping you skating at your maximum ability, refreshing the nervous system, refreshing the muscles, and helping to keep injuries at bay. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video.